stage, Nigel Farage.
Hello, Bolton! Do you know? You haven't heard what I've got to say yet. It could be a load of old rubbish, couldn't it? Wait till the end. Do you know? We launched the Brexit Party just 5.5 weeks ago. I hope you agree with me, we've made a pretty good start. And boy, did it need to be done. We won that referendum fair and square. We won it by a majority of 1.3 million votes, and we were told by everybody, including that leaflet that David Cameron put through all of our doors. Do you remember? Yes. Do you remember David Cameron? Only just. That leaflet from the government made it clear, your wishes will be implemented. It was clear, wasn't it? And then, a year later, there was a general election in June 17, in which both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party said, vote for us and we will implement Brexit. We then, of course, I can deal with the hecklers, don't you worry. We then, of course, had Article 50 voted through by 500 MPs, and it became the law of this land that we would leave the European Union on March 29th. You're awake, thank God for that. We would leave the European Union on March the 29th with or without a withdrawal agreement. They're warming up now, Chairman. I mean, in fact, they could even recite the rest of the speech, probably. And it hasn't happened. And it hasn't happened because right from the very start, a very significant number of people in public life in this country have disrespected the will of the people, have betrayed the greatest democratic exercise in the history of our nation. And I, having spent 25 years fighting to get that referendum and to help to win that referendum, I was not going to be rolled over by these people. I decided I was going to fight back. That is why I founded this party. Now, in a previous campaign back in 2014, when I led another party to some success, I remember the vicious nature of the media attacks. I was reading an alternative CV for myself almost every day. In some of the newspapers, I have to say, I wish some of it was true. Life really would be fun. But anyway, you liked it. But I remember feeling pretty browbeaten at the time. I'd not been through the mill, perhaps quite in that way. And there was one thing in that campaign that inspired me. I got a letter addressed to me, opened it up, and it was in very spidery handwriting. And the author of the letter said, "Dear Mr. Farage, during the war, I served in Bomber Command on many missions over occupied Europe." He said, "I can tell you, you only start getting flack when you're getting near the target." All right. And how right he was. And I've realised over the last few days that the UK political establishment aren't scared of us. They're absolutely terrified of us. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It started off with an attack from Mrs. May. Well, you know, I wasn't too wounded by that, I can tell you. At the launch of her European election campaign, did you see it? There she was, with 4 candidates on the stage, all of whom looked as though they'd been taken hostage to appear with her. Although to be fair, to be fair, Mrs. May is very good when it comes to ransom demands. Because she's paid a 39 billion one to Michel Barnier, and when we leave on WTO, we won't give him a penny, all right? Then we saw Mr. Corbyn's attempt to attack me. Jeremy, looking very much like he didn't want to be there particularly, who, in his interview yesterday with that brilliant... Oh, no, come on. Absolutely brilliant BBC journalist, utterly neutral at all times. Treats every guest the same way. That's right, Andrew Marr's his name. 7 times Corbyn couldn't answer what Labour's actual policy officially was on Brexit. And they say we haven't got a manifesto. You couldn't make it up, could you, really? Corbyn attacked me saying that Nigel Farage has spent the entire campaign attacking immigrants and EU nationals living in Britain. I haven't uttered a word on the subject at any stage of it, but it shows an increasing sign of desperation. But we really saw today what the establishment's real game was when out was wheeled Gordon Brown. And Gordon Brown has accused the Brexit Party of actually potential financial impropriety. Yeah. This from the man who sold 400 metric tons of gold at $280 an ounce. But more seriously, this from the man who was Chancellor of the Exchequer at a time when Lord Levy was Labour's chief fundraiser, and when, shall I say, an astonishing number of large Labour donors finished up in the House of Lords. And he has the front to attack us for being a grassroots organisation that have asked people to become registered subscribers to our party and to pay their £25. I wonder, how many of you in this room are registered supporters of the Brexit Party? Thank you, thank you. Are you watching? Mr. Brown, conspiracy theorists on The Guardian, and wherever else they may be. We have raised over £2.5 million on our website, and these are the people that have done it. But it gets even worse than being attacked in a very coordinated plan between Gordon Brown and media organisations this morning, because this afternoon the Electoral Commission popped their head up. We went to the Electoral Commission last week to show them the checks and methods that we have in place to make sure that donations to this party are legal and absolutely in line with the law. They gave us a clean bill of health. And one of our lawyers asked them, would they please put that in writing, which they didn't do. And so what happens on the same day? When the early morning headlines on the Beeb are that Gordon Brown will give this speech, Brown accuses us of potential impropriety, and then at 1:52, a press release from that organ of government and the state, the Electoral Commission, saying they're going in tomorrow to the Brexit party's offices to investigate. They are doing so on the basis of absolutely no evidence at all. They are doing so in an act of bad faith against what they told us to our faces last week. They are directly politically interfering in a national election in this country. It's a disgrace. It is a disgrace. And I want to say one other thing, please, if I can, and that is about some of the conduct and the behaviour that we are seeing on the streets of our country today. Yeah. I won't even acknowledge the low-grade behaviour that I was subjected to this morning. I won't dignify it. I will ignore it. Perhaps keep buying new clothes and carry on, all right? But let me say this. For a civilized, democratic nation to function in democracy, the loser has to give their consent. The loser has to accept they've lost the election and do their best to win the next election. That is how our system works. If the loser doesn't give consent, then the whole democratic process, the effect of an election being like a safety valve, is lost. And what we have seen in this country since that referendum are very, very senior members of public life in this country. Former Prime Ministers like Blair, Johnny Major, but even the leaders today, Vince Cable, leading the Liberal Democrats, senior public figures in this country do not accept the result of the greatest democratic exercise in the history of our nation. They have done and they will do all that they can to stop it, to cancel it, to force us to vote again. They have given the impression that their view has a moral superiority over our view. They are better people than us because don't forget, they tell us over and over and over that we didn't know what we voted for. I mean, the sheer arrogance of it. But the serious point is this, that in doing so, they have radicalized, albeit a small number, but they've radicalized a group of people in this country who themselves believe that they have a superior view to the majority. And when you have that mindset, if you believe that you are better than other people, history shows that in those circumstances, people are capable of appalling behavior. And we are now seeing the extremes of the Remain campaign acting in an openly abusive way to ordinary members of the public who dare to say they support Brexit, acting in a violent way. Do you know, we even had in Wales last week people lying in the road to try and stop cars coming in to our public event. They are trying to close down democracy. And the point is this, that when democracy breaks down, civility breaks down, and that is where we are in our country today. And that makes me want to redouble all of my thoughts and efforts, not just into this campaign, but into what comes after this campaign. Above all, we are fighting this European election on the key issue of democracy. If we don't implement the will of the people, if our main parties don't keep absolutely fundamental promises made, then we cease to be a functioning democratic nation. Us, who for 800 years have had a form of parliamentary government, us, the home to the mother of parliaments, that has exported this model to the rest of the world. So what is at stake in this election is the very principle of democracy itself. And those who are fighting against us even want to stop us from saying those words. And I suggest to you that when we think about our nation, where it's come from, the incredible sacrifices people made in the past to ensure that we could be free, and the type of country that we want to hand on. I suggest that we redouble our efforts. And in terms of changing politics, well, look, it is clear to me that the two-party system now serves nothing but itself, and it's time it was challenged openly and publicly, and the Brexit Party will do it. And this Thursday is the first step in an attempt to begin a process to change politics for good. We need to look at the party system. We need to look at the voting system. We need to look at the House of Lords. Filled up with 700 of Blair and Cameron's mates. We need to look at the Electoral Commission. Every single one of whom sits on the board is you'd never guess it, would you, Remainer. We need to get the institutions of Westminster. What goes on in SW1 now needs to be representative of what our country is as a whole. So I'm asking people to go out on Thursday, vote for the Brexit Party, give us a win, but perhaps even try and give us a big win. Because if we get a big win, all of those constantly whinging and whining on about a second referendum, all of them, Lord Heseltine, right the way through, oh, my favourite. Oh no, my favourite. How about this? I need cheering up after the day I've had. Anna Soubry. I promised the chairman this was going to be my most serious speech of the campaign. I'm struggling. If the Brexit Party wins big on Thursday, there will be no second referendum. They'd be too frightened to hold it. What a good reason to go out and vote Brexit on Thursday. If you vote in big numbers for the Brexit Party on Thursday, we will put back on the table that which Parliament took away, the key negotiating tool in any business negotiation. If Brexit win on Thursday, a clean break WTO Brexit will be back on the table for the 31st of October. And we demand if we win these elections on Thursday that we become part, with a democratic mandate, that we become part of the government's negotiating team to take us out and to make sure that the 31st of October is our Independence Day, and we demand to be a part of that. We really do. And the bonus ball, if you like, the icing on the cake, is if you vote Brexit Party in big numbers on Thursday, if the Conservative vote gets obliterated, then we'll see the end of the worst and most duplicitous Prime Minister since Lord North lost the Americas, and May will be gone. How about that? You know, perhaps the most remarkable thing about this 5.5 weeks is that I know there are many, countless millions of people out there, like myself, who have been enraged, upset, frustrated, angry by the shenanigans we've seen over the last 3 years. And yet, at every one of these meetings, when people leave here, they're no longer angry, they're actually uplifted. This party, this message is giving people hope. It's making them feel good. It's making them realize. It's making them realize that in the end, if enough of us are prepared to stand up and fight for what is right, and even though we shouldn't even need to be here, we know in our hearts that the majority is with us. It's not with career politics. It's not with big business. Help us make this first big step back to us becoming a true, democratic, independent nation. Go out on Thursday and help us. Let me ask you, are you with us? Yeah! Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, the training's paying off. He's back with a vengeance. And we've just got time for 3 questions, and to give Nigel a quick breather, the first one is from Jeff from Bolton. After we win the European elections, what next for the party? Well, 2 weeks after the European elections, we've got a by-election in Peterborough. And we've got a fantastic local entrepreneur there who is doing great things, well known in Peterborough, and we are giving that our very, very best shot. It's an absolute outrage how that by-election was called from the Labour candidate who ended up in prison and yet was still allowed to vote in the House of Commons with a tag on her foot. Absolute outrage. So we're going to give that our very best shot. We've also, ladies and gentlemen, we've opened on our website applications for parliamentary candidates. So we're receiving applications because we plan to fight the next general election with candidates around the country. Because what we know that there are competent, capable, successful people out there from all walks of life who, like us, have said enough is enough. I need to get involved. I need to help run and govern this country properly for the people. It's a huge opportunity, and we mean to take it.
Right.
So, a question, Michael from Lee, and I think Nigel might enjoy this question. When you stand up in the European Parliament for the first time in a few weeks, what do you intend to say?
Well, now that would be giving the game away, but over my 20 years there, I have to say, I've always gone in there and tried to make very helpful and constructive comments in the chamber. I think I've enjoyed it more than they have, but my favourite one wasn't the Van Rompuy speech. It was 3 days after the referendum, emergency session of the European Parliament, and old Juncker, of course, kicked off. Lucky it was before lunch in his case. I mean, possibly mine too, you know. But Juncker kicked off, and everyone spoke, and they were all very, very down and very depressed about Brexit. And then it was my turn to speak, and I thought, well, do you know what? I think that for the first time ever, today they're going to treat me with respect. That's what I thought. Just shows you how stupid you can be, doesn't it, really? So I got up, and 400 of them started booing. And I thought, right, you're going to get it today. And the line I enjoyed the most of all was when I said, I came to this place 17 and a half years ago, and I said to you, I would spearhead a campaign to take Britain out of the European Union. And you all laughed at me. Well, I said, you're not laughing now, are you?
So, last question. Dot from Bolton asked Nigel, what happens if the MPs do a dodgy deal and May's deal does go through?
Look, it's not May's deal, it's an international treaty, all right? That's what she wants the Commons to sign up to, a legally binding international treaty that in many ways is even worse than the current terms of EU membership. It isn't just the worst deal in history, it's a document that is so shameful, so humiliating to our nation, it would normally only be signed by a nation that had been defeated in war. That is what this woman has done to our country. And that is one of the reasons we're here fighting back today, all right? There is a school of thought, there's a school of thought that Conservative MPs are now Labour MPs, because we're now tearing chunks out of the Labour Party here in the north, and in South Wales, we've got the Labour Party absolutely on the run. So there is a school of thought that says, oh, they'll all sign up to Mrs May's treaty with an add-on of a permanent customs union and single market rules because they're so scared of the Brexit party. Believe you me, if they commit that final act of betrayal, far from it being bad for the Brexit party, it'll put us in a position to perhaps win the next general election.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have you on your feet with your boards, please. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Brexit. When do we want it? Now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a very safe trip home. Thank you.